Hello, welcome to my latest video. As you can see, it's a winter landscape. This time it's Nonsuch Park in Cheam. It's oils, and if you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing. This video is going to be a sort of longer tutorial video. There is already out a time-lapse only, if that's what you prefer. But no, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Bye. The first task is to establish horizon line. I'm doing this quite precisely, as there's nothing worse than a wonky sloping horizon line. After I've done that, I'm just loosely sketching in the main features. I don't need to put much in, as the first painting process will obliterate most of it. It's just to give me a bit of an idea where things are. The first task is to get rid of the white of the board, plus that will help the camera focus properly. I only need to go for the most basic version of the scene, and I'll leave out the details and the large tree as I want to paint the sky without interruption. The first task of the sky is to paint the main graduation without thinking about any clouds that might be there. So I've mixed the colour highest up and the colour at the horizon, and I will start with 100% the first colour and slowly add the second colour as I go down until I end up with 100% of the second colour. Now, before the sky graduation has dried, I've mixed up the main colours I see in the clouds, and I dab them in place on the wet background, where I'll use a blender to kind of feather everything together to give the clouds a soft appearance. After waiting for the sky to dry, I'm now going to do the line of trees in the far distance. First I'm just going to put in their rough shape, and then I'll go around the top edge to put some detail in to really give it the feel of trees in the background. Here I've added a little bit of white to the mixture and taken a rosemary tree and texture brush, and I'm just dabbing in some indication of the tree shapes just to give it a little hint of what's there and get rid of the totally flat nature of what I've painted so far. Now with the original colour and thinned with white spirits, I'm just going over that top edge with a fine rigger and just indicating some sticks and finer lumps and bumps just to aid the realism of that far tree line. What I need to do now is put a basic colour over all the grass and path area. I'm using a fan brush so I can do little short stabbing motions down, and the texture that comes out of it sort of implies grass, and for the path it would imply sort of little stones and bits and pieces. And then once this layer is dry, I can then go back and do the details for real. I've left that background layer to dry overnight. It was a little bit thicker than the sky or that background tree, so it took a while to dry. But now I'm free to go in with a smaller brush and pick out some of the longer lengths of grass and assess the colours I've used and adjust them. Throughout the rest of the painting I will continue to adjust the grass, but for now I think it's time to start putting some of the mid-ground trees in. They're little more than silhouettes, so quite simple to do, just need paint thinned with white spirits and a rigger brush or just any small brush, and looking at your reference photo, try and get the flavour of what a tree looks like at that distance. You don't copy every single branch as there's thousands of them, and that would be massively overkill. After putting that tree in, I just want to adjust the area around it and try and sit it into the landscape better. If I've got a colour mixed up and I've finished what I was using it for, I look around the painting and see if that same colour is anywhere else, and rather than waste it, I'll just dot it about in the various places. It helps to unify the painting to have the same colours here and there all over. After that lengthy detour on putting bits of grass in, I'm finally back to the mid-ground trees like I was supposed to be doing. Now I've got all the mid-ground trees in, it's time to adjust the grass again. Throughout the entire painting I've been looking at the reference photo, looking at the grass I've done and seeing bits that need adjustments. Finally, it's time to tackle the large tree. It's very similar to the mid-range ones in that it's just a silhouette, but I'm not going to use anything like black. That would be far too harsh. And when you look at the reference photo, you can see lower down where it's closer to where the hazy sun is, it's much warmer, and so I'm using a slight brown, and further up into the sky it's got quite a strong blue cast, so I've mixed up the two colours and I'll be transitioning as I go up. These lower sticks that sprout out the base of the tree are catching the sun to some degree, so I've mixed up a much lighter version of the silhouette colour by adding white and just a touch of burnt umber to warm it up more, and I'm just flicking in some of that colour here and there. the large tree needs far more branches, so I'm doing yet another round of adding. Like the other trees, I'm only slightly following the reference photo. You just need to see how the branches connect to each other and follow that sort of pattern. After waiting for the tree to dry, which is basically overnight, I've mixed up a very thin glaze using white, a touch of cadmium yellow pale and a lot of liquid, and with that I'm trying to simulate the glow that's coming from the sun, which is basically behind the tree, and that glow from the sun is sort of creeping round the edges of the tree. So I'm just going to go over the whole thing first and then re-establish the darker parts of the tree later. After finishing off the main tree, it became obvious to me that I'd got the big shadow in the wrong place. Not quite sure how that happened, but never mind. The one good thing about oil colours are they can be very opaque, so any mistake you can just go straight over it and obliterate it and fix it, no problems. The only thing left to do now is to stand back and assess the painting, see where it might need a bit more detail or a colour needs a little bit of adjustment, and you can adjust the colour by mixing up a very thin glaze and just washing over the area. And you do this until you consider it finished, which is always a tricky call because it's very easy to go too far. And it's this point I decided to call it finished. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider liking and subscribing. It really makes a massive difference to the success of the channel. And take a look at the description below where there's links to all sorts of things, Facebook, Instagram, and where you can buy prints of this painting and all the other ones I've done. Thank you, and see you on the next video.